Welcome to Successful Philanthropy. I'm Jean Shafiroff, your host, and today with us is Carol Alt. Carol is a former model. She's an actress, she's an advocate, and she's very involved in the world of philanthropy. Plus, she's also an author. Carol, so nice to have you on the show, and welcome. And Carol, can you tell me a little bit about your background? Many of our viewers may be unfamiliar because we have a lot of very young viewers, but you were on the cover of Vogue as the first brunette ever to grace the cover of Vogue. What was that like?
Actually, my career started in a very strange way, Jean, I have to tell you. And by the way, thank you for having me on the show, and hello to your viewers. I was waitressing. I was in the military, and I was studying law at Hofstra when a photographer came in and said, "Oh, I think you should be a model." And I didn't want to do it. I had a boyfriend up at West Point. I was going to be the first lady. He was going to be the first, youngest, most hippest president. And my plans fell apart. So for a summer job, I went into the city and thought I would visit a few agencies to see what would happen. And I do remember my agent, when I finally got one, she said to me, "Well, what covers do you want to be on?" And I was like, "Cosmo." She said, "Cosmo? Everybody says Sports Illustrated or Vogue. Like, why did you say Cosmo?" I said, "Because Cosmo was the only magazine I'd ever seen. My mother had it. Once on a trip, my father bought it for her. She threw it to the side. I took it and was mesmerized." She said, "Well, that's good because, you know, you're a brunette and not many covers have brunettes on the cover." And I thought, that's so crazy. Like, why is that? Mm-hmm. And I didn't think twice about it. And I started doing my rounds, and the next thing I know, I had a cover of Italian Bazaar, and then I had the cover of Vogue. And my agent came to me and said, "We don't understand. They're usually like the blondes."
And you were brunette. But you were the first brunette on the cover of Vogue. So how did people react to that?
You know what? I have to tell you that
I think it's great.
Well,
I'm a brunette.
Yeah, no, for sure. I opened the door for other brunettes, and now, of course, it's the colors of the universe, and it's really great, the diversity that we have. But I actually,
is so important.
I don't know, do you count? Beverly Johnson was on the cover as well. So I find that a bigger milestone that she was the first black on a cover
for sure.
of Vogue. I don't know if Esme ever had a cover, but I didn't actually. You're telling me something I didn't know. I didn't know I was the first one on the cover, so now I'm reacting because I was like, really? I was the first? I didn't know that.
Yes, well, diversity is so important, especially now with all the racial injustice, or injustice, I should say, that we've seen and experienced over the years here in the United States. So Vogue was early on and showing that beauty has many faces, and beauty has all colors. And so now...
And sizes, by the way.
Absolutely.
My sister Christine was one of the premier large-size models back in 1988-89.
Yes, and if you trace the history of beauty, back in the Middle Ages, if a woman was too thin, she wasn't considered beautiful. Beauty was voluptuous and curves and everything else.
Right, and Napoleon Bonaparte, her portrait, if you see her, she's heavier and, you know, more meaty, and it's beautiful. And white skin was considered a sign of beauty and wealth.
Well, now
it's tan.
Every color is beautiful.
Well, I mean, people like to sit out in the
right?
sun because that shows that you could take time off and go on vacation and sit in the sun.
But I think that's reversed now because people are more concerned about skin cancer, so they're staying out of the sun. I know I've stayed out of the sun my entire life. Another question. Then you were all of a sudden a Sports Illustrated cover girl. What was that like?
It's a very funny story because the first time I went to see Sports Illustrated, Julie Campbell said, "Oh, I can't use her. She looks too much like Christy Brinkley." And I thought, Christy Brinkley is a blonde. Like, I don't look anything like Christy Brinkley. So she actually took me, the first time I worked for Sports Illustrated was in their ski wear issue.
Interesting.
We went to Alaska, and we did a ski wear issue. And when she finally said, okay, I'll take her on, I'll take her on the trip, I was thrilled. Because again, it was Kelly Emberg, it was Nancy Donahue, it was Kim Alexis, all the blondes, Christy Brinkley. Cheryl Teagues, and then I popped up, and then after me, of course, Paulina and Elle, and so it was, Sports Illustrated is a phenomenon unto itself. I had several covers before Sports Illustrated, and I think I also had the Lancôme contract. Yet,
nice.
Yes, I was the youngest model ever. I had it at 18 years old, and I was flying back and forth. It was worldwide. Nancy Dutiel had it in the United States. But it was the first time that they had used a brunette. Again, Nancy Dutiel was blonde. And, I didn't think about it, but looking back on it, I'm more shocked than when I was actually living it.
Would you say that your hair is your signature because you have this long, flowing, beautiful brown hair? And do you think that was something that helped with your modeling? Maybe, because you were different. Any sign, beauty is not just what you see like a cookie cutter form of beauty. Beauty is all a little bit of everything different. As we said before, colors, different sizes, and then being different. And imperfection also is something that a lot of the models and the magazines like to see. But I see no imperfection in you, Carol.
Oh.
You're perfect.
I work at it. The thing is I think that for me, hair is a sign of health. And that's why I love hair so much. For me, it just shows that a person is healthy and well-groomed and takes care of themselves. But back in the day, and it's funny you would say what you just did, back in the day, the agency kept trying to get me to cut my hair. They kept saying, please cut your hair, please. I'm like, why should I cut my hair? And they said, because they're only hiring people with short hair. And I said, well, they're always going to need that one token girl with long hair, and that's going to be me. So I refused to cut my hair.
True. Now, so you were in the modeling world, and right now we are in a situation where a lot is coming out about sexual harassment, and this has been going on since the beginning of the Me Too movement. And how do you think that did this sexual harassment affect your career? Do you feel you were ever in a situation where you were pushed or forced, or someone tried to do something, or that your career was jeopardized, or not say jeopardized, but did you need to take a step back because you didn't do something that some man wanted you to do?
Well, I think, I gave an interview about this once before, and what I tried to get across to the audience was that I think you always have to be aware of any kind of dangerous situation. Sexual harassment or people just wanting to harm you. And when you're a young girl and you're walking around in the street with a big portfolio in your bag, you become a target for many people. Or if they've seen you on the cover or whatever, they will talk to you and try to get you to do things you might not want to do. And what I tried to say, and maybe not successfully in that interview, was there were ways that I always protected myself regardless of whether or not I thought somebody was going to sexual harass me, or if I was, first of all, I was always the same. I never would do what I didn't want to do just to get a part. But that aside, what was important to me was if I went on a go-see that was before or after hours, I always brought somebody with me.
Smart.
I always tried to protect myself. And the agency gave me my best advice ever, and that was, don't ever, because many people come up to you on the street and say, oh, are you a model? I'm doing this shoot and you're going to be a star. We're looking for our next star. And it's very enticing when you're a young girl, you're trying to prove yourself. You're like, I could do that and become a star, and then my agency will love me and my family will love. And the best thing the agency ever said to me was, if people are legitimate, they'll call the agency. So tell them who you're with and walk away. And I have to say that I think in many instances that absolutely protected me. So I was trying to impart that information to other girls, that there are things that you should do anyway, all the time, with everybody, even with another woman. Listen, if you want me and you think I'm going to be a star, here's my agency. And that, I think, got me out of a lot of hot water in many situations because I just didn't go. I wasn't enticed. If you're true, my agency said you'll call them.
Well, that's very good advice, especially to young women. And I don't think there's a woman in the world who hasn't been harassed or cajoled or someone trying to do something. I mean, I've had my own experiences for sure, and they weren't pleasant. And generally, today, maybe like you, I'm hardly ever alone just for that very reason. I protect myself by having someone with me all the time, and so things don't happen because there are enough people out there that are not so good. And so a lot of young girls, they're very innocent, they're very sweet, and they
don't think anybody will hurt them or want evil for them.
And this is how all these kidnappings occur, and then how women end up getting involved in the human trafficking business. They're kidnapped, and someone comes up to them and says, "Oh, I have a job for you. I want you to come with me," and all of a sudden, this girl is kidnapped. So young girls have to be very, very, very careful right now.
Because they know
and
what it
not
is
so young as well.
Yes, they know what it is that you want, and that's what they offer you.
Something, or maybe just a friendship, and sometimes it's a boyfriend.
Well, then they know that's what you want.
Who is
To be loved
doing
and
the
taken
wrong
care of,
thing.
yeah.
Yes, love, and you're right, love and being taken care of.
Taken care of.
And tell me, what was it like growing up on Long Island? I also grew up on Long Island.
Oh, did you where?
I did. I grew up in Hicksville.
Oh my gosh!
Yes.
My sister lives in Hicksville.
And then I went off to college at Columbia and then got my MBA there. But you went off to modeling, and I went off to Wall Street. Very different.
Wow, yes, very, very different. Sometimes I wish I would have done Wall Street. I mean, especially back in that time. That was a very heady time.
Well, it was unique for women because there weren't that many women on, and so it was a challenge.
You know, I have to tell you something. I sometimes would lecture at the Brooklyn Law School. And it was very funny because we were trying to explain to the young girls today what it was like as a woman growing up in our time. You might be younger than me, but there was a moment when, you know, the guys would all network and get together, and they'd go to strip clubs at night and they'd do all the business, and the women were kind of left out. And the girls couldn't fathom that there was ever a moment when women were not welcome in the industry, or they were so few that the men would network off together and not include them. They couldn't understand the times that you went through and that I went through coming up in a time when, you know, it was just starting to open up to women and not everybody had opportunity.
Well, here's the thing. I worked in banking, on the investment banking side, and so there was a code of behavior that you man or woman, you had to abide by, and they were pretty careful even back then, I remember. And so getting back to your career, now you've sort of switched gears. You're no longer modeling, I don't think. Oh, yes, you are. I've seen you in a Zang toy show, a fashion show.
Gee, truthfully, that now is the easiest thing that I do.
But you're an advocate, and you're an advocate, I think, for the animals, correct?
Yes. You know, I've been a chameleon in my career. I started as a model, then I went on to acting, and then, of course, I wrote books on health and nutrition, which was my passion, on raw food, and then I hosted my own health show on Fox News. And I've gotten back to the acting and modeling a little bit, and then truthfully, I broke up with my boyfriend, and I said, "You're coming with me because you don't like animals. We didn't have animals. We were together for 17 years. I'm missing having animals." And I took him to North Shore, and we picked out this little black cat named Sammy. And then somebody in my building saw that I liked black cats, and he said, "There's this black cat, and she's been 5 months and with shelter chic." And I was like, "Let me see a picture." And they sent a picture, and she was just like one eye, and you know this cat had a tough life, but purring away, purring. And I looked at that little face. I said, "Oh my gosh, that's my cat." And I went over immediately and picked up the cat, brought them back. I had to inaugurate her. It took like 3 months, and I thought the trauma that this kitty must have gone through, that she hid under the bed for 3 months.
How terrible.
And I got more and more involved, and I never take money when I do a charity. When I show up for a charity, I don't care how much work I do for that charity, I never take money.
And then do you donate?
But I donate from my own personal, but I
Good.
never would take money. But now, when I do something, what I will do is I will say, "I want you to donate to my charity." So I'm not even in the middle of it. I have them just donate directly to Denise's Rescue, is the rescue I work with right now. Denise is just this incredible, crazy cat lady. Like, if I'm a crazy cat lady, she is a crazier cat lady. And I just try to support her.
So now I read a little bit about the Denise's Rescue, and I think she works with cats and dogs. Is that correct?
Yes. So first of all, you have to understand.
Because I'm a big animal lover.
Oh,
we have five rescues, five rescue
yeah.
dogs in our house, and then I'm the national spokesperson for the American Humane's Feed the Hungry program, which is a program designed to feed animals in shelters across the United States. And then I'm very involved with Southampton Animal Shelter.
But you're also Best Friends Society, which we're both involved with.
I've
the Best Friends
supported
Society, right?
their gala. And then my daughter has an animal charity, Global Strays, and we send money to developing countries. But you're here for the interview, so
well,
tell me a little
bit. As long as you talk about animal charities, I'm
well,
good.
there are so many wonderful ones.
Yes.
But tell me a little bit more about Denise's,
so,
because it's called
Denise's Rescue. So Denise basically single-handedly runs this charity. She's a dog walker and makes her money walking dogs, and puts every penny that her animals eat before she does. So she had these 35 cats and 10 dogs. So this is the story that I saw on the news, which is why I got involved. And her landlord came to her and said, listen, I know you have all these animals in your apartment. And she was fearful he was going to, ask her to leave and throw her out. And he said, why don't you take the basement and fix it up, and you can put your animals down there. So she walked into this basement. It was 12 inches of water. The walls were moving. There were so many cockroaches on it. And she drained the water, put windows in, cleaned this place up all on her own. She did all this work by herself, and she made this place for all the cats. So she brought all the cats, 35 cats, down to the basement, and I brought her beds, and I brought her food, and I brought her games and toys, and she takes donations and all kinds of things, and she's got all these cats down there, and she has the 10 dogs and the kittens that have to be bottle fed. Because you cannot believe somebody threw a kitten out on 139th and Broadway. We now call him Broadway, but he was being bottle fed. He had no mommy. He's sitting there in the middle of Broadway, and somehow Denise got him. But you can't believe how cruel people can be in the city. We just have 12
everywhere there are
yes,
good people, and then there are bad people, and the people that abuse animals, it's a most horrific,
you have
horrific
to be some kind of
thing.
horrible monster
But
to do
now
that.
there are organizations like the SPCA who really, they go after these people, which I think is a wonderful thing.
Well, Denise works with the ASPCA and the SPCA as well, but she mostly will go and sit. If she knows there's a feral dog in a park, she will go and sit and wait to catch that dog. She'll sit in 40 below. The police all up on the upper Manhattan all know her. And last week we found 2 sets of mommies with kitties in holes in walls and back alleys. So we've got now 12 new kittens that we have to feed. And the thing is with coronavirus, I don't know if people know this, but the way a lot of these rescues are feeding their animals is that if you buy something from the store and it's got a hole in the bag or the can is broken and you return the food, that's the food that they give to charities like ours. So smaller charities like ours who don't have big donations, whom people might not know about, which is why I started working with her, is because people didn't know about her. That's how we were getting our food. So with the corona, nobody's returning food because the supermarkets won't take returns. So now we're in dire need of food. So that's why I've been raising money for Denise, because she's got these bills and a lot of animals to feed, and she'll feed them before she feeds herself. But that's how we've been doing this. I'm raising money to help her out. So.
And do you also accept food donations?
We accept everything.
And what about volunteers? Do you take volunteers to help?
I don't know if she's set up for volunteers, but I'm sure if there was somebody who wanted to volunteer, she's the sweetest woman ever. I'm sure she would have no problem having people come in. And she likes to socialize the cats. So if people want to come in and just sit with the cats, she put a chair in the basement so they can come and sit with cats and,
which is
relax.
A wonderful story,
right?
and she's adopting them out, of course.
Absolutely. Actually, of the 12 kittens, I think she said 3 were already adopted. But at any one particular time, she has for sure 30 to 40 cats, no, more like 40 to 50 cats that are there.
Amazing. And does she live
adopting
there?
Them out. She lives now she lives in her apartment above. She has the dogs upstairs and the cats downstairs, and the kittens are upstairs because sometimes she has to feed them by hand. But yes, she just does this pretty much all by herself.
Well, this is an amazing story.
It's an amazing story.
If someone wanted to donate, what's the website?
Well, that's just it. She's working 24/7 with these animals. She has a Facebook page of Denise's Rescue.
She's not a 501c3?
She's a 501c3,
Good.
but she's not a technical person, so she hasn't done the website. But
Well,
you
she
can
needs
give
to
her.
do that because people, when people,
She has a Facebook page, is what she has.
right. Well, that's one
Denise's
way.
Rescue or Denise
Okay.
Lauffer, Lauffer. But if you want to donate, she takes PayPal, which I finally got her set up on PayPal, because you have to understand something. She was doing this all by herself. When I started working with her, I don't think that she really had donations. She was just spending her own paycheck to take care of these animals.
Well,
she's an incredible person.
So now you're also involved with a Best Friends Animal Society.
Yes.
And for our viewers, I just wanted to tell you a little bit about Best Friends Animal Society. They are based in Utah, and they have a big reserve there, right?
Yes.
Big. Have you been there? I haven't.
I haven't, no.
And their objective is to end the euthanization of animals across the United States by the year 2025. So they are doing some fantastic work. And right now in the United States, between 1 and 2 million dogs and cats are euthanized every year, which is a terrible, terrible thing. Even with the number of adoptions way up right now during this terrible pandemic that we're all living through, we still have all this euthanizing. So tell me about your involvement with Best Friends Animal Society.
Well, I started working with them last December. I saw a news piece on them. I thought, this is incredible. I don't like euthanizing animals, especially, the animals who go to city shelters are already, they're disabilitied because they're older animals. Maybe they're sick.
Well, some of them are young, but it's a terrible, terrible thing. Yeah.
Usually, if they're kittens, the other societies come in and take them because they can be adopted out really quickly. But usually what's left behind are these older animals. Maybe they're sick, maybe people moved and they're left behind. And they don't have long. They get a few weeks and then they euthanize them. And this was just making me crazy. And I saw that the Best Friends Society saves these animals off of death row. And that was a really big thing for me. So I called them up out of the blue. I said, what can I do to help? I did a piece on them for the news. I went over, I donated all kinds of toys and things. I went to the store, just bought a whole bunch of stuff, brought it over for their animals, donated food.
They have a place in Soho, right? A small place.
Yes, that's right around the corner from my office there. And so what happened was they said, we're having a big gala. So we bought a table at the gala, as I know you did, and then, coronavirus shut things down. So I've been doing more work with Denise because she's more right now in need and hands-on, and she's local in New York. So I was doing work with her. But yes, Best Friends Society, we have a table. We're waiting for them to, I think
next year. Yeah, it was canceled.
Next year? Okay, because they had said September, October, so I was waiting to hear.
Well, everything seems to be canceled right now this fall in New York City.
But the animals are still in need. That's the thing.
But so people are donating, and people do virtual, and Best Friends, they'll find a way, I'm sure.
I'm sure they will.
Now, we only have about 3 minutes left. This has just flown by. What about your advocacy, the type of work you're doing to advocate? Because that's something that I think is so important, and you have the platform of being an actress and a model, and tell us a little bit about that, and an author.
Well, I'm here today. I drove out to the Hamptons from the city.
Thank you.
Just to do this with you.
Wonderful.
Bill called me and I was like, yes, absolutely. I want to talk about Denise's Rescue. I want to talk about Best Friends Society. They're the ones I'm most involved with. I'm also involved with a veterans charity out of New Jersey. We do a golf tournament every year, and we raise money for basically what that does
for the
is
veterans.
It's called the Just Rivals Golf Tournament. Is we try to re-socialize veterans who are maybe suffering from PTSD, who come back from war, and we try to reintegrate them into society by having them play golf. And we do golf tournaments and whatnot. So that's where I have been putting and when I do my appearances for them and my work for them, they give me money towards Denise's Rescue or towards Best Friends Society. So it's kind of all symbiotic. But I mean, I will jump in a car at a drop of a hat to be somewhere to advocate for animals or to talk about it the best I can. And may I just say it's DM Lauffer, Lauffer at 7585gmail.com
and that's
on PayPal.
And that's Denise's.
That's Denise's Rescue on.
Wonderful.
That's the only way she set up to take any
finally,
donations.
I want to ask you
Yes.
about how you stay looking the way you do at this age, because you look fabulous.
Aw,
And
almost
and
as good as you, Jean, but not quite.
Oh, no,
not
no,
quite.
no. I'm not sure about that. You look
I'm
phenomenal,
sure.
but I have a question.
Sure.
I read that you eat all raw foods. Is that true?
I'm 90 to 95% raw. I mean, there's
So what do you
occasions
have
when
for
I can't get
breakfast?
raw. Oh, I had 2 raw bars this morning. And yesterday I did for my model Carol Alt on Instagram and Twitter, I did 6 60-second raw gourmet videos. So I had all these salads that I had made, salads and soups and things like that that I had done for my videos, and I gathered it all up and I brought it out to my friend's house to have lunch before I came over here. So if I smell like garlic, I'm sorry.
Oh, you smell great, really. And I happen to love garlic. And, well, this morning when I woke up, just briefly, I thought, oh, I have this interview, so what am I going to have for breakfast? So I made a fresh juice, which I do every morning.
Right.
And then you probably wouldn't have eaten this, but I had some of the Greek yogurt. And I thought it was delicious, and I do that often.
You know,
and then I didn't know what else to
let me
eat, so
tell you
I
something.
stopped. And I thought about being on
Whatever
the
you
show.
eat, I can find you a raw cousin. So your Greek yogurt, you can go and get this thing online called, it's Yo Gourmet Kefir Starter. And you drop it in milk, and you put it in the refrigerator. And it makes your own kefir. So you could take the kefir, drop it on top of a Go Raw granola, and have your juice. And then you'll have a fabulous raw breakfast.
Sounds delicious. I have to try it.
You have to.
Well, thank you so much for joining us,
Thank you for
Carol.
having me, Jean.
And this concludes today's show, Successful Philanthropy. We had a wonderful guest, Carol Alt. She's an actress, a supermodel, and a wonderful advocate for mostly animal causes, but for many causes. Thank you, and see you next week.